everybody here heard of the Noxy monster? No?
I've heard of Noxy once, but I know nothing about
You
it.
know nothing about it. Okay,
Same.
well,
I've heard the name mentioned, but
yeah.
that's
Do you know
it,
where
you know.
Noxy is?
No.
No.
No?
Kinda, sorta.
It's in Missouri.
It's right north
Oklahoma.
of Juan.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
The town used to be bigger. It's about a sneeze is about the size of it. It's a lot of rural property is what it is.
It's kind of out
It's about
between.
2 miles south of the Kansas border.
Yeah, it's kind of out between,
Okay.
in Oklahoma, like South
Like Gary
Coffeyville,
Brown's
off of
area?
10.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Like,
It's
going back
between our
towards
house
Allen.
and South Coffeyville.
So do you go to, you take that road from Tyro to,
No.
No.
or is
Yeah.
it farther?
Road
If you-
300 going
Yeah.
east and west, or
So it's out
03.
the-
And it turns into Road 3 when you
Yeah.
get.
Oh, okay,
to-
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Owned all that land.
other than Knox
Yeah,
area.
all
So
the way.
this craziness occurred in 75, but if you actually go back and look at the records, you're gonna find that this, maybe not even a particular Bigfoot, but set of Bigfoot were in this area way back. It's just that it wasn't brought to the forefront like it was in 75. This happened in September, and what a lot of people don't realize is that the same one was spotted in Watauga, which is just underneath all of that, back in August of that same year in 75, okay? So what brought this to the forefront and made this huge splash is because the first gentleman who came across it made the biggest deal out of it. His name was Kenneth Tosh. I don't know if any of you know the Toshes out that way. Not the Toshes, not the same from here, no. Kenneth Tosh, it was 8 p.m. at night, the sun was just starting to set. Him and his buddy were out doing some stuff on his property, and there was an adjacent property to his that had an old abandoned house on it. And they were hearing scratching and knocking sounds coming from it. And they were like, well, it was a little bit too loud for it to be just an animal or something. They thought maybe somebody had come in on that property and was in the house and shouldn't be. And they took their shotguns and went to go investigate. And they came around the corner, and there standing on the other side of the corner was what they explained as a 7 to 8 foot tall, hairy beast man with cat-like eyes, smelled to high heaven. And the most hilarious thing I think about this is that he was not ashamed to say that he screamed.
I would too.
What year was this?
75.
Okay, men didn't do that.
No, especially older hunters. He was in his like 60s, you know. He was one of those hardened old farmer men, you know. Ain't nobody gonna be messing on a property. I'm hauling my shotgun over here. He screamed. The hilarious thing is that apparently this thing screamed back at him.
Probably scared it too.
Yes. Kenneth Tosh and his friend headed one way. The beast headed this way, right? Thought it was over with. He spotted it again the next day, and this time him and his friend made chase after it, and they actually shot at it. He claims it hit him, but of course it didn't slow him down. That's always the story you hear. They shoot at him, but doesn't take him down. Well, over the next 2 months straight, this same Bigfoot was seen by over 25 people in that community.
Oh my
And a lot more heard it or smelled it without seeing it. Supposedly there was a couple of them that claimed it was only 5 or 6 feet tall and was a more blonde color, so they were wondering if there wasn't maybe a second one in the area. The reason why this blew up so big was Kenneth Tosh made such a stink about it, he called the sheriff in. And had the sheriff look, because, well, you know, he was concerned, you know, like, is this thing going after livestock, which later it did. It started taking people's chickens. And he was, you know, concerned there was a lot of kids in the area. And he was just like, if this thing is this big and can go after, you know, if it could go after livestock, it could go after children. And people were like, well, I saw it. It was out back in my chicken shed last night and blah, 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 blah. And because of this huge thing that he made about it, the reporters started coming in. Tulsa newspaper came in and covered it. And for months this went on and on and on, and at first the sheriff at the time was all about it. He was like, yeah, we're very concerned, we're looking into it, I brought my man in, and we've been hunting, and we can't seem to track it down. They did find one set of footprints, and supposedly a plaster cast had been taken, but nobody can seem to find this thing anymore, who has it, or where it went to. So this is all going on, and the really interesting thing is the Army got involved. Unfortunately, and this is something I've kicked myself for, I found the papers online back like 17 years ago. Saved it on a hard drive that I can't get into anymore because the computer crashed. And you can't find them anymore. The paper reports were heavily redacted, so I don't know what all it said, but the Army was brought in. The Army Corps of Engineers was brought in also because they thought it was wildlife, so it needed to be looked into.
Protected or.
Yes. So, what you guys don't know, and I found this out, Hayden Hawes, do you guys know who Hayden Hawes is? Hayden Hawes is in with Brad Steger,
Oh,
or
okay.
was, he's since passed. He started the UFO chapter for the government out of Oklahoma back in the 50s.
Okay.
He was a researcher, he was an author, and the government was so interested in it, they sent him and Brad in. They spent a week in Noxy, undercover with a team, trying to track down the Noxy monster. Unfortunately, they never found anything. And the reports are in some of his books if you look online under, let's see here, Hawes is spelled Hawes. Hayden, Hayden. He has quite a collection of books, really interesting. He was originally from the Edmond, Oklahoma area, so a lot of things you're gonna hear are from our area, so that's pretty fun. It got so big that a gentleman by the name of David Wolper, a very famous Hollywood producer at the time, offered $10,000 to anybody in the Noxy area that could get footage of it so he could show it. Unfortunately, nobody ever got the footage, but a lot of people started trying. So
Can imagine.
what started out as like a 2-month series of sightings in this little small area got huge long after the Bigfoot or whatever this might have been had stopped showing up, because people were literally setting out with cameras at night, waiting for it to come.
I leave too.
And at some point, it started getting dangerous because people were putting up rewards for this. You know, I'll give out $2,000 for the first person that can bring in a body. Well, Kenneth Tosh's dog ended up getting shot because people were on the property and they saw movement, shot the dog. One kid almost got hit. He was out hunting and somebody saw him out in the tree line and took a pop at him. And so the sheriff ended up backpedaling, and he did an interview with the Tulsa paper again, basically denouncing it all, saying that it never happened and that Kenneth was nuts and always had been, and blah, 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 blah. Well, unfortunately for the town of Noxy, this made them look like idiots. And to this day, if you go up online and look, if you look up Noxy Monster, one of the first things you'll pull up are those Tulsa newspaper reports, and it basically paints them as the most backwoodish, 11-toed idiot people. It turned him against the sheriff, because the sheriff had been trying to help all along, and suddenly he's flipped it on them. And since then, the whole town of Noxy just denounced it all. They were like, we never saw nothing, we've never heard of anything, leave us alone. The thing is that the Bigfoot has still been showing up for years and years afterwards. We've had sightings clear up until last summer in the Noxy area. But the people in Noxy, unless you live in the area or right here in this little area, will tell you that it never happened, because they don't want that. You know, they don't want to look like fools, and they also don't want all the reporters and stuff in the area, or the Army showing up and knocking on their doors. But that's the story of the Noxy monster. It's one of the biggest ones. In fact, if you go and look at the Army Corps of Engineers archives, they had an entire write-up on it about whether or not they should have protections up for it because it could be actual wildlife in the area. They actually had full consideration of it at the time. It's in their stuff, so anybody can go and look up Army Corps of Engineers Noxy. You'll find an entire write-up on it.
Where was I in well, I know where I was in 1975. I got married in August and started LPN school in August, so I was,
You were busy.
yeah, I didn't, darn it. Missed out on all
Yeah,
that.
so just for fun, I'm gonna tell you a first-hand account of somebody who ran into the Noxy monster just about, I think it was about 15 or 16 years ago. He's since passed. He lived there in rural Noxy. And at the time that he had told me, he had just moved in there. It was the summertime, and he'd only been living, it was a mobile home on a property with a shed on it. And he was like, I'm gonna tell you about this, and this is the last time I'm talking about it. And I was like, tell me all about it. So he said, I'm just gonna kind of tell you how he told me. He had been out mowing his property all morning long, started in the morning because, you know, hot summer sun, nobody wants to be out in the middle of the day. Coming towards noon, he was finishing up. He parked his lawnmower in front of his little metal shed that he kept it in. He was gonna brush and clean it off first before he loaded it in the shed. And he said the whole morning while he was mowing, he felt like he was being watched. But he attributed it to the fact that it was a new property for him. He didn't quite feel at home yet, you know, when you're uncomfortable with your surroundings. Sometimes he was like, yeah, I just blew it off. And he said he parked his lawnmower facing the shed, and he went and he opened up the doors, and he was stepping back around the lawnmower again, and he watched this thing that stood well above the roof line of his shed step out from the side of it and look at him. And he said this thing stood over his shed, so it had to be well over 8 foot. And he said it was dark and shaggy and had the most piercing eyes and the most god-awfulest smell. And he said when it stepped around the shed, it gave him this look like, I'm coming. And he said he had a split second to think. He was like, he couldn't go this way because there was a fence line. His house was on the other side of the property. He had quite the run to get there. Of course, in front of him is the shed and a fence line here, and to get back to the road was quite a hefty run too. So in that split second, he made the decision, I'm running for the shed, because there's no way I'm gonna be able to beat this thing. He said he got in the shed and he got turned around. It was one of those sheds that had the sliding door. He said he just got it shut when that thing attacked the door and was banging on it. And he said he managed to get a rake and shove down into the bottom of it so it couldn't slide that door back in again. And it trapped him in there for about 4 hours. He said it tromped around the shed and banged on it, and it was hotter than Hades outside in a metal shed, no shade. He was already sweaty and hot from mowing the lawn. He was dehydrated. The only air he could get was about an inch gap where the bottom of the shed didn't quite meet the concrete slab completely. And he said he would try to get down in there and get nearer that to breathe, to get a little bit of fresh air in. And he said that thing always knew wherever he was in the shed, because the minute he would lay down, fingers would come. He said big old meaty black fingers. He was scared to death. And like I said, it had him in there for about 4 hours. He waited it out, and it finally calmed down. And he said about 3.5 hours in, he didn't hear it again. He waited another half hour to be safe. And then he stood at that door with the rake in one hand and the slide in the other, and he said he counted down from 10. You know, he got his gumption up, and he was like, I have to make a run for it. This is where I'm gonna die. And he counted down from 10, and he threw the rake and slid the door as fast as he could and just made a run for the house. And he said he didn't feel like anybody was chasing him, but he still, you know, pell-mell as fast as he could. He went up his back patio steps. It was a deck that went to his mobile home. He said when he hit the top, he felt it behind him. He knew it was right behind him. He ran into the house, slammed the door behind him and locked, and was running through the house, locking windows and doors and yelling at his wife, who apparently had just come home.
I was gonna say,
She missed him?
4 hours.
Well, she had said
She
later
joined the
on,
complaint.
when she got there, she didn't see anything, and she saw a closed shed with the lawnmower parked out front, but she didn't see him, and she just assumed maybe he was off on the property somewhere doing something, or maybe he'd gone off with friends. And he screamed at her, he was like, lock the doors, lock the windows. He went and grabbed a shotgun, and just about that time, he caught him come around the corner of the house, just caught the back end of him, and he said that that thing stalked around the house for the rest of the night. They finally fell asleep in the morning sometime, and when they woke up, it was gone. Yeah, they only lived out there for about a year before he decided it was time to go. It was after the fact that they told him about the Noxy monster. He had mentioned it to a neighbor, and he was like, have you ever seen anything? That thing was god awful tall and smelled so bad. And they were like, well, yeah, it's the monster. And he was like, well, it would have been nice to have known before I moved out here. But it's still quite prevalent in the area, and it actually has a wider berth than what a lot of people think. It goes clear down into Rogers County, and it makes a swath clear up here past up Tyro, up into that area and back down again. It has a route that it takes. And about every 5 years, we get a huge spat of sightings again. I don't know why every 5 years, but last year was that 5th year mark again. We got a handful from that swath. And that's the Noxy monster.
5 more years.
Yeah.
I won't ever come to
Stock
the
up on
Stacy's
can't
home.
visit anymore.
Right. Sure.
Precious metals, yeah.
Good thing, my boys, they are like, we were just talking on the way home last time after this, and I was like, yeah, you know, we've asked him to do the Noxy monster, and then my boys were like, what? What's that? And Cord, who just turned 6, he was like, I'm gonna have nightmares tonight because of the Noxy monster. I didn't even say anything about it except that
That was the name of it.
the name of it, right. And then later on, he said he watched Top Gun Maverick, so he didn't have any nightmares.
That's awesome.
Fair enough, fair enough.
The interesting thing is about this guy's story is, it's very rare to have any kind of like an attack. Usually they'll scare you, and we wondered if maybe it wasn't intending on actually attacking him, but it was just trying to scare him into staying in that shed. Maybe he was having some fun with him. So perhaps I don't know if we've had any other accounts where it actually attacked
Not for
or
that long.
purposely did anything. So I don't think you're in a huge lot of trouble, but if you smell something bad or feel like someone's watching you, I might go in the
So it's
house.
just got a warped sense of humor.
Right?
Yeah, but there are so many sightings in that area, but we also have so many sightings in this area. And just to kind of give you an idea of what it is we're looking at, because I don't think people realize how prevalent it is. I printed off not all of our case files, but about 40 of our case files from Montgomery County and the counties right around us. And if you look up on the walls, that's what these are. And they are not all of them.
You can't read them from down here.
No, but
Talks about the sheriff.
I just wanted to give you a visual. This is what we're looking at in just our little area. And these are not multiples or, people that were all together when they supposedly saw it and gave us their separate statements. And I will tell you, except for one, I think that is up there, I only went back to the 70s. There's so much more.
They extend way beyond the 70s.
You know, we've been living, teaching here for almost 20 years. And I had no idea that there were Bigfoot sightings that close until that last time when y'all were talking about it over there. I'm like, well, I had never heard anything about,
66 years.
I mean, I heard the Noxy monster.
The thing about Kansas and this part of Oklahoma, our little area here, we are a very conservative Bible Belt, good old people,
Nobody wants to
farmers,
stand
keep
out.
to yourself, nobody wants to stand out, we're very conservative, and unless, you know, you're right there with the family, things are kinda kept close to the belt. And we were actually discussing this earlier, the reason why we've been so lucky to get a lot of these reports, we have reports that families haven't given up in the entire time
Yeah.
they've been together. They're like, we're gonna tell you something that we've known for 3 generations.
Yeah.
And it's because we do everything anonymously. If you tell us something, all names get redacted. We never announce it to the public unless you want it announced.
Yeah.
It simply goes into files for our research. There is so much stuff. And it's really sad too, if you look online, if you look up Bigfoot or cryptids or hauntings or anything supernatural, Kansas is a huge dead zone.
But it's because no reports, nobody reports it.
Yeah.
It's there,
It's
just
there.
nobody's talking about it.
No, Kansas is a tight-lipped type of state, but it's there. So, do any of you have any questions about Noxy Monster or, yeah?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Did you have anything about, I remember when I was a kid that there was one in Miami, Oklahoma,
Uh-huh.
but I don't remember if
Yep.
they,
That one is Chef, and it traveled from the Miami area up to the, is it Arcadia?
Acadia.
Acadia?
Acadia.
I think I have part of that here.
so you
Yeah.
knew. so,
The Acadia
okay.
Valley.
That was the one I remember growing up,
Mm-hmm.
because I lived in Oswego and
There was one, I don't remember off the top of my head what year it was, but, it was tracked from Chautauqua clear over, footprints by the sheriff from Chautauqua clear over into Joplin.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
That's-
long track
Yeah.
for footprints. And, it was in the snow too, if I remember right, and they were, you know, bare footprints, and they were huge.
Yeah, so we have a huge spat of Bigfoot sightings on the west side of Caney, upper, rural
Sandhills.
Caney up towards the Tyro area. There's a lot, and of course, there's a lot on this side here, the swath coming up from the Noxy Juan area. There is a huge swath of sightings that happen in between Cherryville and Chanute. That swath in there, there's a whole bunch in there. There is a lot on the other side of the Sand Hills, in the Chautauqua area. And then, of course, if you hit Osage County in Oklahoma, you might as well just have a Bigfoot party.
There's a lot down there.
There is a lot. In fact, Washington County is a little tight-lipped too. They've had a lot. It's harder to find there. But I do have one account, a truck driver coming this way from Copan saw one go up that huge hill when you're coming this way back towards Caney on 75. That big hill that they've cut into again to put in that secondary road. Before that road was in, and it was a little bit further this way, it was a real snowy morning, and he was on the road by himself in his big rig, and he watched it bound up it. He was like, it didn't even run, it just kind of hopped. And he did it in about 4 jumps. He said he made it up to the top of that.
That's pretty good
That's a
sized
good hill.
hill right there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he actually stopped and tried to take pictures of the footprints, but it was so bright that morning and so snowy, no amount of pictures could catch those indentations. It was just too blinding for it to come across on a photo. So, and that was like, when was that last big snow we had? That 10 years ago, we had that
It's been
huge
at least
snow that
10
snowed
years,
in everybody.
It was, yeah.
It was that morning of that big
2009?
snow.
Was it 2009?
Something like that, cause only the big rigs could be on the road, cause it was so snowed in.
Well, I went to work, but.
Well, the big rigs and you.
Only the brave.
I remember that. Wasn't that in, like, the end of,
It was before we started as a team, so.
like the end
And
of
it
March or
was-
something?
Yeah.
I know when it was 2009, because it's the year we moved into the house over here, and we went to Holland, all at the same time, that was 2009.
Yep.
So, yeah.
It's insane. But just to kind of put a pin in that, we are lucky enough to have Brian Terrell with us here today. He is from Red Dirt Cryptids, and he has been working on putting together this huge map system of cryptids and Bigfoot in our area and down into Oklahoma, and he just has some fascinating stories. So we are gonna turn this over to him and let him tell you all about what it is he does. And he also takes Bigfoot stories. So if you have one of your own, or even cryptids, if you wanna stay afterwards and chit chat with him, I'm sure he'd love to hear your story.
We're only talking about Bigfoot today.
Did
Thank
you,
you, Steve.
did you tell him your story?
Yes, Brian's, did I talk about mine last time?
Yeah.
I did.
The one where you and all your liquored up friends tried to run over a Bigfoot over here on the Graffiti Bridge?
We were not liquored up. We were on our lunch
Well, I
break.
talked to some other people.
I'm so disappointed. One of them that was in the car with me, she was supposed to be here tonight. She's not here. Yes.
Well, I still believe you.
Oh, thank you. We've got some people here. Eric, is that correct?
Mhm.
Yes, this is Eric, and you work with Brian on
You
occasion.
guys work with me, so does Scotty from
And
time to
Scotty's
time.
up here. Hi, Scotty. Talked to you before online, but never in person. Yeah, Scotty's actually with Kansas Sightings too, Facebook page. So he's got some really cool stuff on his. If you guys want to look it up and join.
Yeah. Hi, guys. My name is Brian. And I'm from Enid, Oklahoma. Anybody know where that's at?
Good
Yeah.
teacher.
There is nobody in Enid, Oklahoma that really believes in Bigfoot. Yeah, because we don't have a whole lot of waterways. But I didn't grow up there totally. When I was a kid, I had some, I guess you would say, some activity at our home farm. And then as I got older, I realized what it was, thanks to the help of a movie. And once you start realizing that, you know, some of this stuff was going on in your past, and you realize it's always been there, you know, you start kind of connecting the dots, right? And so I got interested in it a long time ago, but everything just kind of, it's like a snowball coming down a hill for me. And about a couple years ago, I started Red Dirt Cryptids as an effort to kind of an outreach for the people in my area. Started out as northwestern Oklahoma, just so they would have a place where if they saw something, they could reach out to me and tell me about it. And it grew, you know. I started realizing there was a lot of activity elsewhere. So I started looking around. Trying to figure out how to do this. There you go. I changed, some of you guys, if you may have followed me before, this was my old logo. This is my new logo. Some of the things that we started on the internet in 2018, we do cryptid consultations, field investigations, and we actually try to get information out to you guys. Come on in. Nobody's allowed in here without a Bigfoot t-shirt. Oh.
Come on in and have a seat.
So, are we in a hot spot? There you go. So, what happened was I was just going my own little way. And I was doing stuff in my area, you know, just kind of doing my thing. And I started noticing, I got a report from Blackwell, Oklahoma. Anybody know where that's at? Yeah, it was really, really creepy one. This family was being tormented by this thing, and this thing was coming up on their back porch and unscrewing their light bulbs, and it was getting on their back porch and screaming in the middle of the night, waking up, scaring their kids. They ended up calling 911 3 nights in a row, and after about, you know, the third night, they're like, we are out of here, and they packed up and they literally left their home and moved to, well, I heard they moved to Wichita. So I never got a chance to talk to them, but long story short, I started noticing a pattern of reports that would come trickling in from places that I really didn't expect. And one of the first ones that kind of trickled in was Scotty over here from Arc City. And I never really thought about Arc City as a potential hot spot. But when you look at it, they got everything you need. Primarily a river. You know, they've got food sources, they've got cover, stuff like that. And that call was real eye-opener for me. And then I started looking around at other places. I ended up getting a few calls from other places in the area. And I started realizing that it's not really about the location so much, it's about that particular area and whether or not people are willing to talk about it openly. Like you said, giving people the option of being completely anonymous, it helps, okay? Because there's a lot of people, even to this day, that are still mortified at the thought of their neighbors finding out that they actually saw something in their backyard, or when they were camping, or whatever. You know, they're just, you know, the thought of people finding out is just too much for them. But as those came trickling in, I started seeing a pattern, and it kind of made me laugh. You know? Anybody ever hear that? What movie is that from? Come on now. Oh, it's movie night. We're gonna have to shut it down.
Twister.
The only Bigfoot movie I know is Carrie Ann Henderson.
Okay, we've got a whole new.
Oh, okay, I'll assign homework later.
Yes, yes. Well, the greatest.
Is it Boggy Creek or
That's it.
something?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
Legend of Boggy Creek. And you know, that was a long time ago.
Can you turn the light off? Would it be easier to see?
I don't know, how good can you see back there?
Not very good.
Anybody scared of the dark?
It's really hard to see that.
Boo.
There you go.
Oh, there we go.
Start over.
All right, no making out.
Man. So, you know, this was made a long time ago. I don't even remember what year it came out, but there was so much truth in that movie, and I recommend that you guys watch that, because almost the exact same, you know, what would you call it, like the fauna and everything in the landscape, you guys have got it like right over there. You know, I mean, that's what it really is. It's all about the habitat, really. You know, rivers and water sources, they're always close to some type of water, you know. And as you can see, we got a lot of water in Oklahoma, right? I just found this one map of the Arkansas. And when you really sit down and look at it, I mean, there's not a whole lot of places that there's not water, right? Except for Enid, Oklahoma. All right, let's zoom in a little bit here, okay? As you can see, you know, we've got, let's see if this works. We've got Call Lake right there, Oologah. Oh, no, wait a minute. Yeah, that's Skytook there. Oologah should be over here somewhere, shouldn't it? There's Oologah right there. Okay? This little area right here is primarily what we're going to be talking about today, because I'm assuming that most of you guys are from here. Oh, I went backwards. Uh-oh. Oh, habitat, there we go. Waterways, right, we just talked about that. Food sources, what do they eat? Okay, I'm gonna make this real quick. Well, everybody knows they eat deer, they eat hogs, okay? They probably, for the most part, stay away from cows, because that's problematic, and I think they've learned it. I think you're gonna find that, and most people that are in the know nowadays, they're really going for your trash. Okay, if you guys live anywhere near a waterway that's green all the time, that's not coons getting in your trash can. Okay, a lot of times it's them, and they'll make rounds. I actually had a lady in Tonkawa, Oklahoma. Was it? No, Kanawha, Oklahoma, who swore up and down that they actually knew what day was trash day, and they would come the night before.
Makes sense.
I'm not making it up. Maybe she was, but I. Cover. Well, cover's easy to find, isn't it? Just walk outside of town, they'll never find you, you know? And there you go. How's that for comforting? What do they look like? Most of them that they report look like this or like this. The two in the middle are rare. They get reported up north a lot more. Ohio, around Lake Superior, Canada. But these are probably the most common.
Well, west of town is one.
Yeah, yeah. You notice how human they look? Just remember though, we vary greatly too in appearance. So it would be ridiculous to expect them to all look the same. Now that Noxy monster, well, just another Bigfoot or something different? Yeah. Now, we may not have the same opinion, okay? A lot of people, when these creatures appear in their area, a lot of times they assume that it's the same creature. And to be honest with you, a lot of times there's multiples. As a matter of fact, they're never alone. They travel in family groups. You know, for instance, Canton Lake. Anybody know where Canton Lake is? Out in northwest Oklahoma, okay? There's not a whole lot of stuff out there, but there is a wildlife management area, and there's sloughs, similar to what you guys got here. I live a lot closer to that, and we've done a lot of research. We've identified at least 5 different creatures living in that one area, just by their footprints alone. Here's one of them. Here's another one. We started calling them by the name of the Jetsons. This is Elroy's footprint. Yeah. Daughter Judy. So, but we've identified at least 5 different individuals out there at Canton Lake in one wildlife management area. When you take a look at what you've got over here, to be honest with you, just outside of town, I could see that area supporting a family of 5, 6 easily. You know, you trickle down into Hula area, back over Oologah. I don't see why 20 or more couldn't live around Oologah alone. I mean, the habitat is there. Unfortunately, they do get big. They get reported a lot bigger than that. The biggest one I've ever heard of was estimated at 15 feet tall. There was one at Skytook Lake that not too terribly, that 4 years ago. The kids saw it, and him and his dad were out there fishing. They went back, and there was a light pole there, and this thing literally had to duck under the light pole as it ran under it. This is one of the big ones, you know, and they estimated that it was like 10 feet tall. And you can see, I don't know, it's intimidating. Now, this is something that you're going to hear a lot. Oh, you saw a bear. Is there anybody in this room that is going to have a problem telling the difference? Really? Seriously? I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I just want to point out the ridiculousness of these comments that, oh, you saw a bear. Really? Maybe 50 years ago, before the internet, when somebody probably only seen a bear in a one of those almanacs or whatever, you know. Today, no. Sorry, I ain't buying it. Now, this area right here, okay, let's see here. Here's Art City, over here to Coffeyville, and then back down in here. I don't know what you would call this, the Bartlesville Triangle or Caney Triangle, I don't know. But you guys are right in the middle of this, okay? And this is all we're gonna visit with. This is my, I've got a little website, and I've got a map. It's kind of interactive, and it's got a little waypoints on each one, and it has cryptid files. As you can see, we have 223 case files in there that you can click on and get your location. Now, this is not all Bigfoot. I got men, we do other things other than Bigfoot, but you can tell by looking at the icons if it's a Bigfoot print, or, and this is primarily all Class A sightings. This is no, I usually don't document footprints, okay? But this is incomplete. I've only got like 220 some odd waypoints on this one, and I've had some problems. I just can't add any more waypoints to this map. So I've got a whole bunch. We've added a whole bunch right up in this area recently too. And it's a shame, it's just, I can't figure out how to cheat the system on this one. And I'm currently looking for a new one, but it ain't gonna happen. This is pretty much up to date. Well, not up to date, because I'm not up to date. I'm about 30 case files behind right now. But you can go to my website and you can look at that. I'll show you how to get there here in a second. Now, when it comes to these reports, look around the room. You've got 40 some odd reports plus just in this one area, okay? What does it take to actually get from the woods and that sighting to that piece of paper printed on the wall that they've got hanging up here for you today? First, you gotta have Sasquatch, right? Yeah, it's no brainer. Then you gotta have a human. Now, having a human is not as easy as you think, depending on the population of that particular county, okay? Now, we have a whole bunch of sightings of Bigfoot, and this is not accurate. I barely have time to do this portion of my state. But down here, I mean, this would literally be tens if I was up to date on all the case files in southeastern Oklahoma, okay? But what I'm trying to say is, these counties down here have high populations, right? Northwest Oklahoma, if you take Garfield County out, which really doesn't have a whole lot of, you know, because we don't have any rivers in Garfield County. But if you take Garfield County out, there is probably more people in this county, and this county than there is in all of Northwest Oklahoma. So population of that particular area has a huge impact on how many case files there are in a certain area. What's the population of this county? You know?
About 35,000.
That's it.
Yeah, it's not.
You have to take that into account whenever you're trying to figure out how big a situation you actually have, okay? So people are a huge factor. And then on top of that, people have to be doing something other than staring at their cell phone, right? Yeah, that seems to be a bigger and bigger problem. Eyewitnesses have to reach out to some kind of organization, okay? They cannot just keep it to themselves. A lot of these case files get lost right there. For every one of these case files that you have on the wall right here, they estimate that 10 go never reported, okay? So there should be 400 on the wall. But they're not, because people are too scared to talk about it. The researcher that they finally did break down and talk to on their deathbed, right? They have to actually take the time to document. Now, these case files that you're seeing all the way, nobody paid these ladies to do this. This is all done in their free time. And the reason is because they thought that it was valuable enough that they should document it for posterity. That is extremely hard when you're trying to hold down a job, feed your kids, keep life happening, keep the electricity turned on. It's really hard to find that time. I'll tell you what I do. All of this stuff that I do it when it's raining. When I can't get out in the woods, that's on really rainy weekends that are all poopy and nasty. That's when you'll usually see fresh case files pop up on my website. It's because it's the only time I'm not gonna sacrifice my field time for this, although this is valuable. Now, I don't know what your method is, but it's really tough to find people that will actually take the time to write all this stuff down. I've got a whole book over here that I've got case files written down in, and I'm literally somewhere between 30 and 45 case files behind. I just don't have the time.
It doesn't rain
Yeah, spring is coming. Spring is coming. So that researcher has to document it, and even more uncommon than any of the rest of them is that research organization has to build a platform that you can access. Okay? I've got one. It's a free Google site. You know why? Because I'm a school teacher. I can't afford a fancy one. But it's what I can do. You know, there's tons of these little ones out here, but they're all over the country. They're very uncommon. Come on in.
Come on in. Find a
Nobody in here bites except for that guy back there in the corner. And there's always room on the front row.
She's safe with me, she's my niece. She knows me.
But a lot of guys just have these things written down and they keep them personal. And a lot of it is, it's not that they're being stingy. Some of them they are. Some of them they just want to have all the information themselves and not share it. They're just not very giving. But some people just don't have time to do this. I mean, prior to, 2016, when I started teaching, I had no idea how to work one of these. I mean, I knew how to buy stuff on Amazon, and I knew how to check my MySpace page, but other than that, I didn't have any idea how to do anything. And so there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts that go into each one of these case files all over this room, and all mine. So, let's talk about some reports. Ah, there we go. Thank you, sir.
Mark says jiggle it.
The guru,
It's usually cable.
the guru of technology. Okay, so what I want you to do in your free time, of course, go find this, hit like, follow. Go over here to featured, right? Now, you're gonna click on featured, which I've already got it on there, and you're just gonna scroll down. You wanna watch a goofy video, click on that. If you want to go to our Google site, click on this. Normally, there's a little image there. Oh, hold on. It'll take you to my website. If you go to my website, you can go over here to I've got a whole bunch of hoopla over here. But the part you really want to go to is my map. Boom, here we go. Keep in mind, this is short, about 100 case files. Oh. There's that fancy mouse when I need it.
And this is also not all the sightings in the US. He maps just southern Kansas and northern Oklahoma.
This is just me. There's so many reports that nobody has told me yet that I haven't had access to. I mean, I'm constantly getting new ones from podcasts and from YouTube and stuff, and people calling into these Bigfoot shows and stuff, and I mean, people constantly are sending me, these online stories, but you can go to this and you can search your immediate area, you can click on one. Yeah, let's see here. Man reports Sasquatch sighting north of Kaw Lake. You notice there's not any more information there. Most of the time, I get these, what I call half-ass reports, you know? You don't get a whole lot more than that. So if you know about any of these and you have more information, where'd I go? Can you see it up there? Slow down, Brian. Alright, but let's go over here where we're at. Alright? Starting to get the picture. There we go. Look over here. Now, the most important thing, Noxy Monster, 1915, that's where some of the newspaper reports first started coming in. People reporting things, 1915, okay? But the most important thing that you wanna do is you wanna look up here, and you wanna get this RD case file, you see that? That's number 190. You take the one you want, and then you go to my Airtable, and you look at it there where you get a detailed file. You can pick any one of these, and we're not clicking on the question marks, because this is Bigfoot night, right? But you can click on any one of these. Roadside encounter, daytime 2015, Bronco Road. I got that? Okay, that's how you use the map. It's pretty simple. Let's get out of here. Keep you moving. You ready for this? If you go into featured, sorry, I kinda clicked out of that, shouldn't have done that. But inside features, there's also a link to something called Airtable, okay? This is what my Airtable looks like. You click on it, it'll pull up, actually it won't pull up this first part, but it will pull up this part, and you will actually see this. This is every single case file that I have right now. It's not up to date, but as you can see, these are all reports. Now there's more than Bigfoot in here. This is southern Kansas, south of Wichita, and Oklahoma. We're still going. Okay? Now seeing as how this is just Bigfoot, you can go over here and you can filter them. See if I can fit. Sort. Hold on. Sorry, I told you I'm not good at this, right? Grouped by district or region. Let's go to cryptid type. Now you can just look at all the Bigfoot files, right? We can also come in here and we could sort it by district or region. You could click on that and you could zoom down. Let's see, where's the district? I think it's,
I think we need to look on Bronco and Road 30.
yeah. Okay, you see how right here I've got north central Oklahoma? This is your area on the south side of the line. Those are all case files, Bigfoot case files from what's north central Oklahoma. Now let's keep scrolling down. South Kansas. Okay. These are all Bigfoot case files from southern Kansas. It'd take us a long time to go through these, okay? That's your homework. You get to do that. You get to go and look up your area. You can pick out any one of these. I had a couple earmarks. You'll have to forgive me here. Let's see here. RD32. Here we go. There we go. That happened northeast of Ark City. You can see there's maps, aerial pictures. Yeah. Oh, look at there. There's a link to a YouTube video if you want to watch it. See Nancy the movie star. That's Scotty's, by the way. Let me look at another one.
That's cool because you're doing more than just typing in a few notes, you're actually making all of the maps and all of the.
Well, that's not on every one, but let's go to Ulagal. Oh, no, that's Oklahoma, hold on. A lot, I've got a lot of them in it. Where's the, there it is, 193. 190, uh-oh. There it is. 1978, Bigfoot Class B. I don't have a whole lot of Class B reports, to be honest with you.
What's the difference between Class A, Class B?
Class A is you laid eyes on the creature. Class B is there was evidence of the creature, but you didn't see it. It's footprints, tree knocks, shaking of trees, finding hair, finding scat. Well, it's kind of hard to tell Bigfoot scat from tweaker scat. Kinda hard. Tweaker poop. So, but as you can see, this one here, South Kansas, just east of, how do we say that, Chitopa? Chitopa. In February of 1978, the chief of police from the town of Chitopa got a call of some strange footprints that had been found just east of town. He and many other people came to find the trackways of 2.5 miles long. Footprints measured 17 inches long. For those of you who have never measured your feet, I wear a 14 double E and my feet are 11 inches long. Think about that, okay?
Well, see, from Miami, Chitopa, Oswego, we have the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a big river right at
That was my
Chitopa.
backyard.
Basically,
Yeah.
by the time this whole deal was over, there was newspapers out there photoing it. There was people out there, there was tourists coming in to see these footprints. These footprints were not in the snow, they were in fields. 2.5 miles of footprints. And you're talking about a trackway, foot to foot, that was like 54 inches from one foot to another. Okay? You can't do that. Humans can't do that. I mean, I'm a pretty big guy, but I don't even think I have a 35-inch trackway, you know, from toe to toe. You would literally have to be running at top speed, having 14, you know, imagine trying to do that with fake footprints things on your feet.
Actually, I was gonna say, I don't mean to interrupt or anything, if you go and look this report up online, because it's still active, you hear a lot about this. About a month later, they pinned this on a kid, a teenager in the area, said he strapped fake wooden big feet onto his feet and went running around as a joke. But the thing is that there's no way. They showed a picture of these supposed feet that he'd made to strap onto his own. They were only about this big and they were a real jagged wood cutout. They did take some prints and you can see the fingerprints that you have, your toe
Dermal
prints,
ridges.
the dermal ridges
Yeah.
in the plaster. And like he said, there's no way that those prints could have been made that
Yeah.
long and that far apart with a human stride.
But
But it's just one of the many
that's
ways
common.
just one of the many ways they just try to discount it, just to.
What happens is, let me paint a picture for you. You're a farmer, right? You own the land. There's these trackways going across your land. Next thing you know, you got all these city yahoos coming up, and they're crawling all over your place. They're not asking for permission. They're not talking to you. They're just stomping all over your place, probably tearing up your wheat and whatever. I mean, who knows what? And they're doing it by the droves. What are you gonna do? You're gonna call the county sheriff. County sheriff comes out, tries to run them off. The only way to get them to actually leave and to quit coming is to sweep everything under the rug, make it go away. Just like the Noxy monster situation. They had to make it go away because it was becoming a problem, you know? This is very common tactic that they used to do back in the day.
They still do it.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of reasons that they do it, and sometimes it's probably the best thing. Let's see here. 197, let's see if I can find that. Let's see here. I'll have to scroll down a little bit. This goes a lot faster with my fancy mouse. 197. Jeez. There you go. Coffeyville, Kansas. Alright. Not too far from here. What is it? 20
15
miles?
minutes?
Yeah.
There you go. Case file, the guy was, power went out. He went out in the backyard, changed the fuses on his pole. And then whenever he checked the fuse change, fit the disconnect back on, light came on, and he had company. You can imagine that. Pretty scary encounter. You can take the time to read all about it. Oh, looky there. Look who the field investigator is on that one.
Who?
That's her.
No. It's because we can't see the.
Something, oh, you can't? Okay.
No.
It's not real clear, it's a little fuzzy.
Okay, well, hopefully whenever you guys take the time to, go through and look around your areas, hopefully you'll get curious, you'll get a little nosy, and you'll spend some time looking in there. Now, what I've done is I've stolen, you could say, case files from all over. You're gonna find BRFO reports in here, Gulf Coast reports. I've got a few very weird reports that came out of books. If it come off a podcast, you scroll down to the field investigator part, it'll tell you what podcast it come off of. I've got a report over here from Oolagaw that was on Sasquatch Chronicles. It's Red Dirt Case Files 185. And it was a guy over here at Oolagaw, and he had one talk to him. You heard it yet?
I haven't heard that.
David.
That's interesting.
David, yeah, you've heard it. Let's see, is it 185? Anybody listen to Sasquatch Chronicles? Let's see. Well, for some reason, it's not in here. Oh, it's because I'm in Kansas. Oh, well, anyway, you need to check it out. If you go in there, you'll go to the north end of Oolagaw and look at the case file. Guys, there is a massive amount of activity all around us, and we are completely walking through life on a daily basis with blinders on. We live in this fantasy world where we don't wanna, I don't wanna see it. If it can't see me, I can't see it, or whatever we tell ourselves. But these things are actually out here. They are getting seen and reported all the time. There are people that are keeping their mouths shut because they're afraid of what their peers are gonna say. I mean, good God, we're like 40 years old and we're still scared of our peers. You know, that's why I encourage you guys to come forward. I don't care if you come forward to me or them. I don't care. Come forward, make a case file. Even if you just heard something or you smelled something or something keeps getting in your dog feed out in the shed, you know, that was another thought. Your guy that was trapped in the storage shed. You know, I remember when I was a kid, we used to keep our dog feed in the storage shed. You know, and I guess what I'm trying to say is don't be afraid. If you don't want people to know your name, that's fine. But you can trust me to keep your name and your private property locations private, and you can trust these ladies. They know how to keep their mouths shut, and you know, there's no reason not to tell people what you've really seen. You don't have to tell the world, but you can tell somebody and use an outlet, something like what we've got here, to help other people who've seen these things. When people run into these things, there is a rash of bad things that happen to them. You know, they're scared to death in the first place. They're scared to go outside their house at night. You know, they're scared to drive home. I had one lady that literally wouldn't drive. She drove 20 miles outside of her, on her way back and forth to work. She was driving 20 miles extra just to go, so she didn't have to go by that area anymore. I mean, this stuff can really mess with your head. people need to know that they're not crazy, that other people have seen this stuff. And you, if you've seen something like this, you can help them get over this and let them know they're not alone. Now, and you don't have to give them your name, but just knowing that there was some guy, some farmer or some, you know, just over the ridge that saw something that looked exactly, he described it exactly the way I saw it. Maybe I'm not crazy. Cause that's one of the first things that goes through your head. You know, like, I'm sure Pam, how many times have you questioned yourself about what you saw on Graffiti Bridge?
So many, and, you know, it was years, because I drew a picture of it that night after we saw this thing. And, for years I was made fun of because they were like, oh, you made it look too human, that can't be what it looked like, you know, whatever, you made it up. And it was just within the last couple of years, I happened to be on, Dave Pauletti's website, and he did the Hoopa Indians tribe up in Pacific Northwest. He went up and they have a relationship with Sasquatch in the area. And so he took a forensic artist with him from Oklahoma City area up there, and on his website happens to be a picture of some of them that this guy drew, and I was shocked because one of them looked like what I saw, and it did have the human looking eyes and stuff, and I was like, see, I'm not crazy, I really did, that is what it looked like.
Yeah, and the people that actually see them close up and are fortunate enough or unfortunate enough, whoever's, you know, to actually see facial features and stuff like that, it's really important that you tell people about it. We need locations, even if they're not precision, and we just need some time frame and stuff like that. It doesn't take much to make a report, okay? It's pretty simple, but you've got options. You can reach out to us online. A lot of people choose to do that, or you can just grab one of my forms and fill them out. And whatever you fill out here, I'll make a copy of it for Pam and her team before I leave. So
We keep our reports so anonymous. There's files that Pam has that I don't know the name.
same here.
And I have files that were given to me that I've never told them the name on it.
Yep.
And if you look, I told you, you know, this is just a small portion of our case files just on this area alone. You're only gonna find a couple of them up there with any names on them, and those names are up there because it's either old retelling that was already told with the name on it, or we had full permission from that person to use their name.
Yep.
You won't find any other names on these at all. And a lot of the times, the exact place is gone too, because we don't want people having other people show up on their property all of a sudden hunting for Bigfoot.
Very, you know,
Or out there taking photos.
vague area.
So
Yeah.
we are very anonymous when it comes to these. So if you know somebody who has a report and they're just a little bit nervous about it, you can give it to us secondhand, have them write it down with Sam's name, just the general area, and send it through you.
A lot of my case files are secondhand.
Yeah.
You know, and I would love to talk to the first-hand people, but, you know, beggars can't be choosers. And in the most, like I said, it doesn't matter whether it's your story or somebody that you know real well. What matters is that this story is put out there. You know, that's the most important thing. It's even a tech botard like me can figure out a way to get this stuff out there for public access. So, you know, yes, and somebody turn on the lights.
So what is the statistics on these Bigfoot hurting females?
Hurting, very low.
Killing, or, I mean, I mean,
Very low. However, David Pauletti's, who has a lot of books he wants to sell you, he would probably disagree. But I will say this, if they are homicidal and they wanna kill us, they're pretty bad at it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they're huge, maybe they're just nice.
We're pretty good at killing each other accidentally because of big feet.
Yeah,
A lot of people have been shot because they thought they were shooting at a Bigfoot.
Or heart attacks.
Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah, I mean, I had a situation a couple weeks ago with where Eric, I was in southeastern Oklahoma in the Washita National Forest, and I had one walk right behind me, and I was in my car trying to sleep, and I ain't gonna lie to you, I was too scared to turn around and look. I heard it walk up, it would actually walked in between his van and my car. And
Slept
it
right
was
through it.
right behind
Did you
me.
really?
I got a comfortable mattress.
The only reason that I woke up in the first place is because Coleman was in a tent. And Coleman texted me and said, there's something outside my tent. So I'm watching Coleman's tent. I actually saw something moving around over there. And then it disappeared, and then it walked in between his van and my car. And I was literally too scared. I mean, when I heard it walking in, it was like somebody would walk on my grave. I'll tell you straight up, it scared the living crap out of me. Because all I could think about is my car door locked? I don't know, this thing can jerk me right out of here. And then by the time I finally got my wits about me, and I was like, it was gone. So, that was intense, that was a very intense moment. And I know it wasn't Eric, cause he can't get out of his vehicle without making a ton of racket. And,
No,
and Coleman was still in his tent. You know what it sounds, you can't get out of the tent quietly. You know, and I guess, well, there's nothing to be ashamed of. It is a scary situation. But the truth is, that thing could have ripped, Coleman out of that tent and beat him to death right there on the side of that creek. But it didn't. It chose instead to sit there and play with his chair. It was just playing with the chair. It was like, that's weird, what is this, And then it left. And it left footprints, by the way. So.
Speaking of footprints, would you tell us a little bit about the cast that you've taken, or?
Oh, well, I was hoping that somebody would come up and ask me about them before, because one of these is actually not real.
That
And-
one looks like it's not real.
You think so? This one?
It's too perfect.
What do you think? Does this look not real?
No.
This is a replica cast of the 1967 Patterson Gimlin film's footprints. These are certified real. Okay? There's been more research and study done on this particular footprint than any of the others. So this was Patty, that's what I'm talking about? Yeah. Yeah, this was from Patty. And it's always kind of funny because it is kind of perfect, isn't it? But there was also I think, 21 footprints that were taken off of that. And they videoed it, Now, this one, Eric was with me. This one is a terrible cast, okay? This is a typical cast, but this was a baby squatch footprint. And this is the big toe. This is kind of the heel here. But it was terrible. And this was a very tiny little footprint. And we cast this at Canton, like, what was that, 2 months ago? 3?
yeah, about that.
Something like that.
I'm not.
What kind of
confirming.
area was it in?
That's a good one there.
Now see, this is the point I'm trying to get. It's not about how big the footprint is. It's where did you find it, okay? We found this footprint and many others. We probably found well over 70 total footprints that weekend.
It's like a dried up marsh area. And
Very-
the thing is,
Yeah.
this area was like a bowl. And if you were outside, it was surrounded by like a berm.
Mhm.
And if you're outside, you wouldn't know it's there. You have to walk up the berm and look down into it. And it's kind of it was still mushy. And there's the cattail reeds sticking up. And if you're barefoot, barefoot, letting your kid walk around,
This is in the middle of a wildlife management area.
CPS needs to be notified immediately.
That's what I was trying to get
Horrible.
at. They weren't just like out on the beach.
We're
where
talking
kids go swimming.
miles away
Yeah.
from civilization.
And it was like a concealed playground or whatever. Because those footprints were going to a dead tree in the middle of the swamp, and then they'd end. I figured they got up on the tree limb and walked
Yeah.
from there, but
What we found where it came back out on the other side of the mud hole. You're talking about this nasty, green, slimy, boggy, this is not a child, this is not a human child that's out there walking. And plus, most people don't realize it, but a Sasquatch foot is almost always close to half as wide as it is long. Where our foot is usually somewhere between a third or less than a third, the length of, you know, how wide it is. And, like for instance, you can kind of see how wide this one is, okay? And this was given to me by the guys from the Southern Bigfoot Alliance. Well, this isn't even a big one. This one's only 16 inches long. The trackway that you guys just discussed, they were longer. This one is 16 by 8, okay? But this is probably one of the finest casts that have ever come out of Oklahoma. This was taken just outside of Healdton, Oklahoma. Anybody know where Healdton is?
Yeah.
It's down south of Oklahoma City, okay? And they found a whole set of trackway of these too. Okay?
See the dermal ridges on the bottom.
Yes, there is. You can actually see the dermal ridges. I encourage you to come up and put your fingers on it and feel it. You can feel, you know, that. And this cast right here would be incredibly hard to fake. Incredibly hard. And when they have it on video, how far the trackways were, I think he said they were, I don't remember, 53 inches apart, you know? That would be really freaking hard to fake. I don't think I could do it, even if I set my mind to it. I don't think I could do it. I mean, it'd be really hard. Now this one, of course, is mine. I was hoping that you guys would fall for that or not be able to figure it out, but as you can see, that's a 14 double E foot right there. Doesn't look very big, does it? Right? So you gotta realize anything bigger than this is gonna be incredibly unusual. When you sit down, if you find for instance, if you was to find this track out in the woods on a beach, what are the statistical chances that you're gonna find a guy with my size of boot? You know how hard it is to buy shoes? There's a reason why they don't make any of them. Because there's so few of us out there that actually wear those kind of crazy shoes. My point is, you see anything bigger than this, you need to call me. Okay? There's chances, and how many of you guys walk around barefoot in the middle of winter time, by the way? Anybody? Out in the woods?
Check mail, that's it.
Yeah? How about in the wildlife management area? No?
Supposed to say barefoot is Crocs.
Oh, I love Crocs. I love Crocs. So this one here was taken from Canton too, over there my home area. You can actually see where the toe indention was. I found this in October of 2020, okay? And I was in that wildlife management area with the reeds and everything. I was actually, when I went out to cast this, I was wearing a pair of Crocs. And those reeds that were sticking up out of the ground, one of them actually went through my Crocs and stabbed me in the bottom of the foot. And it hurt, and I was bleeding. And my point is this: would you walk around barefooted out there? Think about that. But anyway.
How does that compare to your size? I just wanna.
It's smaller than my foot.
Okay, just
You know,
wondering.
this is, we call this daughter Judy. So,
Bigfoot come in all sizes. One of the things I found is the misconception that if it's a Bigfoot, then it's 7, 8, 9 foot tall and its footprint are all this big. Well, they come in all sizes.
Yeah.
There's actually an entire, they call them a family of them, that supposedly live in the hills outside of Tahlequah. They've been there for generations though. The whole town knows about them. You don't go up into that set of mountains because that's where the short feet live. There are a group of ones that are 4 or 5 feet tall, but look just like Bigfoot, just smaller versions of them. They think it's some kind of odd little grouping that maybe just like humans have, we have different kinds of genes and stuff, and some of us are shorter than others. And
Yeah.
they're out there all almost shorter than some of us. So they have little small casts from the Tahlequah area out of those mountains. So it's like you said, they're all different, just like we're all different.
you know, everybody, you would notice if a 12-foot tall human was walking down a dirt road at night. But if you saw one that was 6 foot tall, all dressed in black, and it ran off into the woods as, you know, your headlights did, what would you think?
Keep going.
Homeless.
Tweaker.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you think.
Yeah, keep going.
Somebody's tweaking out down here.
Yeah.
But and I'm gonna tell you, I swear to you, they come into town, they raid trash cans, they don't send the big ones in, the little ones come in. The little ones come in, anybody that sees them just thinks there's some tweaker. Oh, some tweaker walking down the street, you know, over there digging in trash cans, some homeless guy or something. We justify this stuff in our mind. It's a defense mechanism so that we can cope with it, you know.
Sorry.
I mean, you think about it, anything under, I don't know, 6.5 feet is gonna probably remain completely unnoticed after dark. Most of them are dark colored anyway. The only ones that really stick out at night are the white ones. They're pretty rare. So,
Well, if you're shining your headlights right on them.
Yeah, right, exactly, then they're peachy colored.
I was gonna say,
yeah,
pink or.
depends on whether you got those, pimped out headlights.
Let's see, it was a little blue Celica, so.
Oh, you got the old halogens, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably look yellow, old yellow.
Well, that's why they
But
call
he
it the
really-
peach monster.
Yeah, it looked peach colored, we think it
Yeah.
was gray maybe, because it looked kind of peach colored in the headlights.
They come in black, reddish, like a Irish setter.
I've heard of the red ones.
They come in brown, all shades of brown, white ones and occasionally gray ones. So I've heard stories that there is a very old white one that actually travels from Tahlequah, and it's basically like, and I'm getting into some crazy stuff here, so hang on. Supposedly this thing takes news to all the other clans and makes a big loop up into Kansas, down through Ark City, back down, and don't ask me where I got this information, cause you don't wanna hear that either. And back down around to Tonkawa, Oklahoma, on the other side of Ponca City, and then it comes back down to Arkansas, and it basically slowly makes its way back down to Tahlequah. And if you wanna know, I'll tell you. You ready for this?
Yeah.
There's a older Native American man over by Ponca City that goes out into the woods and talks to them.
I've heard of weird things.
Yeah, he's got some stories, but the sad part is, this people will see this white one making the path through here. He supposedly comes through this area too.
Really?
And as the story goes, this elder, you know, I guess you'd call him an elder Bigfoot, he's just old. He's, I guess his mate or wife or whatever you wanna call it died. And he basically, that's his job, is he goes around and takes news to all the different clans. And that's what he does, is he makes a big circle a couple times a year.
The delivery boy.
Somebody's gotta deliver the mail.
Yep.
Yeah, that really makes you wonder if there's an ounce of truth in that. What does that mean? Now that one question can start 20 more questions.
Oh, my mind is already doing somersaults over that one.
So what do you think they do when they die
Well,
with their?
a lot of people, that's a really common question, you know, why haven't we found a body? Okay. How many of you guys are hunters? Yeah, spend a lot of time in the woods? Okay. When was the last time you found a bobcat body, skull? Bobcats are rare, but there's over 2 million bobcats in the continental United States. But it's extremely unusual to see one. Well, unless you're a bobcat hunter or trapper. Okay? They're elusive, right? Now, you figure if there's 2 million of them and you hardly ever see one, right? Well, and you never, ever find a body. You know, I would love to have a bobcat skull. That'd be cool. Hang on the wall. But if you never ever find one of those, If there's even less Bigfoot out there, what's the chances of you stumbling on that? And here's an even better question for you. If there is, say 1 million, let's go big, 1 million Bigfoot across the United States, how many Bigfoot bodies should there be? Well, they're constantly dying just like us, right? It all makes sense up until the point when you realize, well, there's 3.9 million people in Oklahoma, right? According to the last survey, 3.9 million. That's a lot of people. There's more people in Oklahoma than all the Bigfoots in the United States. When was the last time you found a dead human in the woods? And Shirley,
Well, in this area, haven't we had 2 of them lately?
what, no, my question is, when was the last time you
Oh.
found one? Because I'll tell you a little secret, if you found a dead Bigfoot in the woods, nobody believed you. And nobody didn't go look. And my point is this, if they are that rare, having one actually, finding one in the woods would be exceptionally rare. We've got all these David Pilates people, maps and stuff, missing people, all these people that are dying. We've got tons and tons of people, but we never find a dead human in the woods. But yet, you think that we should have a dead Bigfoot body on a sled. We should have found one by now. You know, you see where I'm getting?
And they put thousands and thousands and thousands of man hours into looking at these disappeared people.
Oh,
And you're looking for them and you're not finding them. You're not just gonna stumble across it.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm just saying that you gotta go with the numbers, you gotta do it with the probability. You know, the chances of you stumbling on them, and that's assuming that they don't take care of their own dead, which then most people believe they do. Now, to even go even further, okay, they have found dead Bigfoot. So they have skeletal remains, they've got them in OU, but they're misidentified. In 1978, there was a flood that went through Purcell, Oklahoma, and there was 7 dead bodies that were recovered out of what they thought was a Native American grave. And these things were all over 7 feet tall. They were boxed and categorized by anthropologists from OU, and they were taken to that noble museum, the museum down there. And they had a study done on them, and they were categorized as extremely unusual Native American remains. They're out there. We have bodies, and that's not counting the ones the federal government has in the freezer. They're out there, they're just miscategorized.
How many were given to the Smithsonian and then
Disappeared,
lost?
yeah.
Oh yeah, you guys wanna have a good
Cause
time.
then
Let's-
that mixes into the
I got a whole
giant.
For the record, right now, she brought up the Smithsonian, not responsible for where the conversation goes.
Everybody knows my feelings on the Smithsonian. You just go back and watch a few of the old podcasts and you'll get my full view.
Yeah,
I
we
know.
did a
All
whole,
of ours.
we did a
Like an
whole,
expose.
Anything that the government wants to disappear, it goes to the Smithsonian. It's gone.
Disappears.
So, but anyway, anything else? What else do you wanna know?
Yeah, we're starting to run out of time. If anybody has any questions, now is the time.
There are no
And
dumb questions, guys.
Brian's gonna stay for a little while, so if you have any stories you wanna tell him, and if he does more than Bigfoot too, if you've got a cryptid story, or, you know, petrosaurus sighting, or just something weird you wanna tell him about, or even us. And you're probably, I'm sure Brian's fine with you coming up here and taking a closer look at the map and the casts.
Knock yourself out, take all the pictures you want. Just please don't pick up my cast and take off running with them. Kids do that. It's pretty funny.
So is there any more questions? No, are we good? Well, thank you all for coming tonight. We're super excited to have Brian here. We had a long drive. We are gonna continue this series. So it looks like we've had a lot of interest in it, everybody's been really excited. I think next month, we're gonna do it on UFOs and the 37th parallel.
Oh, that's me.
So, we're super
Come
excited
back.
about
Yeah,
that.
see the X-Files theme song.
If any of you ever have an idea or a topic that you're really interested in and would like to hear more on, just shoot us a message or a text or come by the library and let Pam know, and we will certainly put it into the series. We're all about anything crazy, kooky, supernatural. We do it all, our little group here. So yeah, feel free to do that. Feel free to stay and chat with us or chat with Brian. We have a couple of other paranormal groups here.
We do.
Right? Where's Scotty from?
Arc City?
Arc
Yeah,
City.
Park City.
Their group's here, to visit with Brian and everything, and just have fun and chit chat, and thank you for coming.
Appreciate y'all coming out.
I'm so confused.
Oh, let's talk about Dogman.
Yeah, like,